The research station floated in silence above New Baekdu, a human colony world that most aliens couldn't even pronounce correctly. Hannah Kim crawled through the maintenance shaft with her toolbox, sweating in the cramped space. Her job was simple. Fix what broke, stay out of the way. And don't bother the important researchers upstairs. She was 28 years old and had 2 engineering degrees that meant nothing to the Galactic Coalition. Humans were the newest species in space, the weakest, the slowest to learn. Other aliens did the real work, while humans cleaned floors and fixed pipes. The artifact chamber was 3 levels above her. Hannah had only seen it once during orientation. The predecessor Biotech armor sat on a pedestal like a sleeping god. All curves and strange angles that hurt to look at too long. Dr. Murray Park, the lead researcher, had explained its history to the new human workers. The armor was over 1,000 years old. It had bonded with warriors, generals, and heroes from a dozen different species. But for the last 800 years, it had chosen no one. Thousands had tried. The strongest Voran soldiers, their insect bodies perfect for war. The brilliant Takish scientists with their 4 arms and analytical minds. Even the massive Gorath, creatures that could crush steel with their bare hands. The armor rejected them all. Hannah didn't care much about ancient artifacts. She cared about keeping the life support running and sending money back to her family on Earth. Her younger brother Jiho was still in school. Their parents were getting old. Someone had to take care of them. She finished replacing a burned-out coolant pump and checked her datapad. 2 more repairs before her shift ended. Above her, alien researchers studied relics that humanity would never understand. That was fine with Hannah. She understood machines. Machines made sense. The alarm started as a soft beep on her pad, then grew into a station-wide howl. All personnel to evacuation stations. This is not a drill. Hostile forces detected. Krell warships approaching. This is not a drill. Hannah's blood went cold. The Krell Dominion. Everyone in the coalition knew about them. They were conquerors, slavers, a military empire that took what it wanted. They had been quiet for decades, following treaties they clearly never meant to honor. She scrambled out of the maintenance shaft and ran for the nearest evacuation point. The corridors were chaos. Voran soldiers rushed past her, their clicking voices sharp with commands. Takish researchers clutched data devices to their chests. A Gorath engineer nearly trampled her in the panic. An explosion rocked the station. The lights flickered. Emergency panels glowed red along the walls. Hannah changed direction. The evacuation point was too crowded, and humans always got pushed to the back of the line. She knew another route through the maintenance levels. It would take her past the artifact storage, but it was faster. She ran through corridors she had cleaned 100 times. Another explosion. Closer. The Krell were already boarding. The artifact chamber doors were open. That was wrong. They should have been sealed. Hannah slowed, her survival instinct screaming at her to keep running. But she saw figures moving inside, harsh voices speaking a language that sounded like grinding metal. Krell soldiers. 6 of them, maybe more. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons that made Coalition standard rifles look like toys. Their leaders stood before the armor's pedestal, holding a device covered in wires and pulsing lights. The neural override will force the bonding, the leader said in rough Coalition standard. The armor will obey Krell or be destroyed. Hannah should have run. She should have left them to their theft and saved herself. But something in her chest tightened with anger. The Coalition dismissed humans, treated them like children. But at least they followed rules. The Krell just took whatever they wanted. She stepped into the chamber. You're not taking anything. The Krell leader turned. He was massive, his armor making him look like a walking tank. His face was angular and cruel, with too many teeth. A human? Here? He laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Run away, little thing. This doesn't concern your species. This station belongs to the Coalition, Hana said. Her voice shook, but she didn't move. That includes humans. The Coalition is weak. Humanity is weaker. Step aside or die. Hana looked at the armor. It sat on its pedestal, dark and silent. For 800 years, it had refused everyone. It was just an old machine, probably didn't even work anymore. But machines made sense to her. And this machine, this ancient piece of technology, had standards. It chose warriors, yes, but the right kind of warriors. Protectors, not conquerors. No, Hana said. The Krell leader gestured. Two soldiers raised their weapons. Hana dove behind a display case as energy bolts tore through the air. She crawled, ran, used every piece of cover in the chamber. The Krell didn't hurry. They were predators playing with prey. She made it to a maintenance panel and ripped it open. The station systems were damaged but still responding. She could trigger an emergency lockdown on this section, trap them inside. But that would trap her too. More explosions above. The Krell fleet was tearing the station apart. Hana's datapad buzzed. A message from Jiho. Where are you? I'm coming back for you. No, she typed quickly. Don't. Get to safety. I'll find another way. She wouldn't. They both knew it. But maybe Jiho would listen this time. The Krell were getting closer. She could hear their heavy footsteps, their commander calling out orders. They were going to kill her and take the armor, and no one would even know her name. Hana stood up. She was tired of hiding, tired of running, tired of being dismissed. She walked back into the open chamber. The Krell soldiers saw her immediately. Brave, the commander said. Stupid, but brave. Kill her quickly. Wait. Hana looked past him, at the armor. 800 years and you've chosen no one. Is it because there's no one worth choosing? Or because you're waiting for something specific? The commander laughed. It's an old machine, human. It doesn't wait. It's broken. Maybe, Hana said. She walked toward the pedestal, ignoring the weapons tracking her movement. Or maybe it's tired of conquerors. Maybe it wants someone who actually gives a damn. She reached the armor. Up close, it was beautiful. Organic curves mixed with geometric precision. It wasn't built. It was grown. The Krell commander raised his weapon. Enough of this. Hana put her hand on the armor. It was warm, alive. Let's end this, she whispered. The armor exploded with light. The light was blinding. Hana felt the armor move against her skin, felt it reading her body, her mind, her memories. It moved like liquid metal, flowing over her arms, her chest, her legs. Where it touched, fire followed. She screamed. The Krell soldiers stumbled back, their weapons forgotten. Their commander, War Master Drax, shielded his eyes. Impossible! The armor hasn't chosen anyone in centuries. The pain was beyond anything Hana had imagined. The armor was rewriting her nervous system, connecting itself to her brain, her muscles, her bones. She saw flashes of memory that weren't hers. A warrior in golden plates defending a city. A soldier in midnight blue holding a line against impossible odds. A protector in silver standing between civilians and destruction. The armor remembered all of them. Every person who had worn it. Every battle they had fought. Every choice they had made. And now it was showing Hana why it had chosen her. She saw herself as the armor saw her. Not weak, not insignificant. She saw the times she had stood up for other workers when supervisors were cruel. The times she had fixed critical systems on her own time so others wouldn't be in danger. The moment she had pushed a takish child out of the way of a falling cargo container, taking the hit herself. The armor didn't want the strongest warrior. It wanted someone who would fight because fighting was necessary, not because they loved violence. The light faded. Hana stood in the center of the chamber, encased in bioorganic armor that shifted and flowed across her body. It was dark blue with traces of silver, lightweight, but she could feel its strength. A visor covered her eyes, filling her vision with tactical data she somehow understood instantly. "Systems online," a voice said in her head. Not quite male or female, ancient and calm. "Welcome, Hana Kim. I have been waiting. You can talk." Hana thought. "We are bonded now. Your thoughts are my thoughts. Your will is my purpose." Drax recovered first. "It doesn't matter if the armor chose you. You're still human. Still weak." He raised his weapon. "Kill her." Energy bolts screamed across the chamber. The armor reacted faster than Hana could think. It pulled her body left, right down. She moved like water, like air. The bolts hit the walls behind her, melting metal. "Weapon systems available," the armor said. "Right arm, plasma projector. Left arm, kinetic blade. Back-mounted, rail spikes. Shield generator, active." Hana didn't know how to use any of those things, but the armor did. It guided her movements, showed her options, let her instincts make the choices. She raised her right arm and thought about stopping the soldiers. A pulse of superheated plasma erupted from her palm. It caught 2 Krell soldiers in the chest, melting through their armor like paper. They fell, screaming. Hana stared at her hand. She had just killed 2 people. The armor felt her horror, her hesitation. "They will kill you and take me for conquest," the armor said gently. "They will use me to enslave worlds. You know this is true." She did know. The Krell were here to steal and destroy. If she died, they would keep trying until the armor worked for them or was destroyed. "I'm a maintenance engineer," Hana said. "I fix cooling systems and repair door panels. I'm not a soldier." "You are now," the armor replied. "And I will help you." 3 more Krell rushed her. The armor moved her body through combat forms she had never learned. She ducked under a blade, drove her elbow into an armored chest with enough force to crack the plating. A kinetic blade extended from her left forearm, vibrating at frequencies that cut through matter. She slashed, twisted, kicked out. The Krell fell. Only Drax remained. He had dropped his rifle and drawn a massive sword that crackled with energy. "You think you've won? You think bonding with ancient technology makes you special?" He advanced slowly. "I've killed hundreds in combat. I've conquered 12 worlds. What have you done, human? Fix pipes?" Hana steadied her breathing. The armor fed her information. Drax's weak points, his likely attack patterns, the structural flaws in his sword. But it was still her choice to fight. "I've kept people alive," Hana said. "I've protected my friends. I've stood up when it mattered." She shifted into a stance the armor suggested. "And yeah, I fixed a lot of pipes. Want to see what else I can do?" Drax roared and charged. The fight was brutal. Drax was trained, experienced, vicious. He had killed people like Hana would fix a broken circuit. But the armor made her faster, stronger, and more important, it made her capable. Every move Drax made, the armor predicted. Every attack he launched, she countered. The prediction wasn't enough. Drax was still better at actual fighting. He landed hits that cracked her armor, blows that sent her flying across the chamber. Without the armor, any one of them would have killed her. "He's too experienced," Hana gasped, rolling behind cover. "I can't beat him straight up." "Then don't fight fair," the armor said. "You're an engineer. What do you know that he doesn't?" Hana looked around the chamber. The artifact storage systems. The magnetic containment fields. The power conduit she had repaired just this morning. She smiled. "Hey, Drax," she called out. Catch me if you can." She ran, not away toward the main power junction. Drax followed, his heavy footsteps shaking the floor. Hannah led him exactly where she wanted him, right over the primary energy grid. She grabbed a damaged power coupling and ripped it open with the armor's strength. Electricity arced wildly. She redirected it, shaped it, used the armor systems to channel thousands of volts directly into the floor where Drax stood. The Krell War Master convulsed as electricity tore through his armor. He fell to his knees, smoke rising from his joints. Hannah walked up to him. Her kinetic blade was still active. She could end him right now. One strike. "The armor chose you," Drax gasped, "because you're weak. You hesitate. A true warrior would kill." "Maybe," Hannah said. She deactivated the blade. "Or maybe it chose me because I only kill when I have to, not because I want to." She bound Drax with damaged power cables and left him in the chamber. The station was still under attack. More Krell soldiers were flooding in. She could hear weapons fire in the distance, screams, explosions. Her datapad buzzed. "Jiho, I'm at docking bay 7. Where are you?" "Stay there," Hannah typed back. "I'm coming? And Jiho?" Things are about to get weird. She ran through corridors transformed by the armor. It showed her safe routes, highlighted enemy positions, gave her options she never would have seen. She wasn't just wearing the armor. She was part of it now, and it was part of her. Researchers were trapped in a sealed laboratory. Hannah tore the door open with her bare hands. They stared at her in shock. Humans didn't do things like that. She got them moving toward the evacuation points. More Krell soldiers. She fought through them, learning with each encounter. The armor was teaching her, but she was also teaching it. Human tactics, improvisation, fighting dirty when necessary. By the time she reached docking bay 7, Hannah had saved 43 people and defeated more Krell than she could count. Jiho stood by his shuttle, his face going white when he saw her. "Hannah? Is that you in there?" The armor retracted its helmet. Hannah's face was covered in sweat, her eyes wild, but she was smiling. "Yeah, it's me. Get everyone loaded. We're leaving. What happened to you?" Hannah looked at her armored hands. "I think I just became something the galaxy wasn't ready for." Above them, the Krell fleet was regrouping for another attack. The station was dying, but Hannah Kim, maintenance engineer, was just getting started. The evacuation shuttles were leaving, but the Krell flagship was still docked to the station like a parasite. As long as it remained, the Krell could keep sending troops. Hannah watched from docking bay 7 as another wave of soldiers poured out of the enemy ship. "We need to go now," Jiho shouted over the alarms. His shuttle was packed with refugees, humans, Voran, Takish, even a few Goroth who had squeezed themselves into the cargo bay. "Hannah, please." She looked at her brother. He was only 22, still had that optimistic face that believed things would work out. She wanted to protect that innocence. "Get them out of here," Hannah said. "I'm staying. Are you insane? You'll die." "Maybe. But if that flagship isn't stopped, they'll hunt down every shuttle." "You know that's true." The armor spoke in her mind. "The station's fusion reactor is 3 levels down. If overloaded, the explosion would destroy the flagship." "And the station," Hannah added silently. "Yes, and the station." Jiho grabbed her arm. The armor was solid under his hand, warm and alive. "You just got that thing. You don't know how to use it. You're not a soldier, Hannah. You're my sister." She hugged him, the armor carefully adjusting its strength so she didn't crush him. "I'm still your sister. I'm just also the person who has to do this." She pushed him toward the shuttle. "Go. Tell Mom and Dad I love them." The shuttle door closed. Through the viewport, she saw Jiho's face twisted with anger and fear. Then the engines fired, and he was gone, carrying dozens of people to safety. Hana was alone in the docking bay. Not alone, the armor said. We are together. Right. So, how do we blow up a fusion reactor without dying? Carefully. Hana ran through the damaged station. The armor highlighted safe paths, warned her about structural weaknesses, kept her away from Krell patrols. She reached the reactor level and found it guarded by a dozen soldiers and 2 combat mechs. The mechs were 3 times her size, armored war machines with weapons that could level buildings. They turned toward her, their targeting systems locking on. Okay, Hana said. Any bright ideas? Their armor is strong, but their joints are weak. The pilots inside are vulnerable to electromagnetic pulses. The fusion cells powering them are shielded, but I get it. Aim for the weak spots, use their strength against them. Fight smart, not hard. Hana smiled. I fixed enough machines to know how to break them. She charged. The armor made her fast. She slid under the first mech's cannon blast, came up close where its weapons couldn't track her. Her kinetic blade activated and she drove it into the knee joint. The blade's vibrations tore through the hydraulics. The mech stumbled. The second mech fired. The armor's shield generator flared, absorbing most of the impact. What got through still hurt like hell. Hana was thrown against a wall hard enough to crack concrete. Shield at 40%, the armor warned. That weapon is too strong for prolonged engagement. Hana got up. Her body ached, but the armor was feeding her painkillers, stimulants, healing factors. She could keep fighting. Then we end this quick. She grabbed a broken pipe from the floor old habits and threw it at the second mech sensor cluster. The pipe bounced off harmlessly, but it made the pilot focus on her for just a second. That was enough. Hana sprinted to the damaged first mech and ripped open its chest panel with armored hands. Inside, she could see the fusion cell, glowing blue and beautiful. She grabbed it and tore it free. The mech died. The pilot ejected, cursing in Krell. Hana turned to the second mech and held up the fusion cell like a grenade. Want to see what happens when I throw this at you? The pilot hesitated. That was his mistake. Hana threw the cell not at the mech but at the group of Krell soldiers behind it. They scattered. The cell hit the ground, and Hana shot it with a plasma bolt. The explosion took out half the room. The second mech staggered, its back armor cracked and smoking. Hana didn't give it time to recover. She was on it, climbing its frame. Finding access panels she knew had to be there because all machines had weak points. If you knew where to look, she tore into its control systems and fried everything with directed electrical bursts from the armor. The mech collapsed. Silence. The reactor room was clear. Impressive, said a voice from the doorway. Drax. He had freed himself somehow. His armor scorched and damaged, but still functional. He carried his energy sword and looked furious. You should have killed me, he said. Yeah, I'm getting that feeling, Hana replied. They circled each other. The reactor hummed behind Hana, its containment field visible through reinforced glass. The armor wasted itself on you, Drax said. You're not even trying to use its full power. You fight like a human, weak, scared, hesitant. I fight like someone who fixes things, Hana corrected. You see problems, and you smash them. I see problems, and I find solutions. She moved before he could respond. Not toward him, toward the reactor controls. Her fingers flew across the interface, the armor helping her process information at superhuman speed. She locked out the safety protocols, started an overload sequence, set a timer. What are you doing? Drax demanded. Ending this. Hana backed toward the exit. In 5 minutes, this reactor goes critical. The explosion will destroy your flagship and this entire section of the station. Your choice. Stay and die, or run and save your crew. Drax laughed. You'll die too. Maybe, but the shuttles will get away. The people I saved will live. That's good enough. Something changed in Drax's expression. Not quite respect, but recognition. You would die for them? For aliens who treat your species like animals? I'd die for anyone who needed help, Hana said simply. That's what the armor understood. That's why it chose me and not you. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then Drax lowered his sword. You're a fool, he said. But he turned and ran toward his ship. Hana waited until he was gone, then sprinted for the exit herself. The timer showed 4 minutes. The armor calculated trajectories, optimal routes, probability of survival. The numbers weren't good. Can we make it? Hana asked. Unlikely, the armor replied. But we must try. She ran faster than she had ever moved. The station shook with secondary explosions as the overload spread. Bulkheads slammed shut behind her. She tore through them with the armor's strength. 3 minutes dawned. She reached a damaged section where the hull had been breached. Space on the other side, cold and dark. No time to go around. We can survive in vacuum, the armor said. For a time. How long? Long enough, perhaps. 2 minutes. Hana jumped through the breach into space. The armor sealed around her completely, providing air, warmth, protection. She used small thrusters the armor generated to propel herself along the station's hull toward the docking bays. She could see the Krell flagship detaching, its engines firing for emergency departure. They were abandoning the attack. Below, Coalition defense ships were finally arriving. She could see the human frigate Gwangju's Pride among them. 1 minute. She was still too close. The explosion would catch her, armor or no armor. Jiho, she whispered. I'm sorry. Then something grabbed her. A shuttle Jiho shuttle had circled back. Its cargo door was open, and Jiho was leaning out, secured by a safety line, reaching for her. I'm not leaving you, he shouted. Hana grabbed his hand. The armor retracted so she could fit through the door. They tumbled inside and Jiho hit the emergency seal button. Go, go, go! Hana yelled. The shuttle's engine screamed. They accelerated away from the station, just as the reactor went critical. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. It expanded in slow motion, a sphere of pure energy that consumed the station and caught the Krell flagship before it could escape. The enemy ship broke apart, its pieces scattering into the void. In the shuttle, refugees cheered. They had survived. Humanity had fought back and won. Hana sat against the wall, exhausted. The armor was still active but quiet, letting her rest. Jiho sat beside her. Don't ever do that again, he said. Can't promise that, I know. He looked at the armor. What happens now? Hana didn't know. The armor had chosen a human. That had never happened before. The Coalition would have questions, demands, fears. Everything was about to change. But right now, she was alive. The people she had saved were alive. That was enough for today. News traveled fast in the Galactic Coalition. Within hours, every species knew that the predecessor Biotech armor had chosen someone. Within a day, they knew it had chosen a human. The reactions were immediate and divided. Hana stood in the medical bay of the Gwangju's Pride, watching news feeds from across the galaxy. Some species celebrated. The armor had finally found a worthy candidate after centuries of silence. Others were terrified. Humanity was barely civilized in their eyes. And now one of them controlled the most powerful personal weapon in known history. The Coalition Council has summoned you, Captain Soman Lee said. She was a stern woman in her 50s, with gray in her hair and scars that proved she had fought her way to command. They want you on the homeworld for judgment. Judgment for what? Hana asked. I didn't steal the armor. It chose me. They don't care. They want it studied, controlled, probably removed from you if possible. The armor can't be removed, Dr. Myray Park said. She had survived the attack, and was now running tests on Hana with equipment that beeped and flashed. The bonding is complete. Neural integration, cellular fusion, genetic adaptation. The armor is as much a part of her now as her own heart. Removing it would kill her. Soman nodded slowly. Then, they'll probably try to control you instead. Assign you to their military. Make you a weapon they can point at their enemies. I won't be a weapon for politicians, Hana said firmly. Then you'll have to convince them you're not a threat. That means going to the council and facing their questions. Soman paused. For what it's worth, you saved a lot of lives. You made humanity look strong for the first time in centuries. Some of us appreciate that. The journey to the Coalition homeworld took 5 days. Hana spent the time learning to use the armor. It was patient with her, teaching her combat techniques from 1,000 previous wearers. But it also learned from her, adapting to her instincts, her problem-solving approach, her preference for ending fights quickly rather than prolonging them. Why me? She asked during a training session. The armor had created a simulation room where she fought holographic opponents. You could have chosen anyone. There are aliens who are stronger, faster, more experienced in war. I chose you because you understand what I am, the armor replied. I am not a tool of conquest. I am a shield for the defenseless. Every warrior who wore me understood that. You understand it too. I'm not a warrior. You became one when it was necessary. That is the truest kind of warrior. They arrived at the Coalition homeworld, a massive planet city that housed representatives from 300 species. The council chamber was ancient, built by the predecessors themselves. A circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Hana stood on that platform, alone. The armor had retracted to a thin layer over his skin, barely visible but always present. Around her, council members stared down, some with curiosity, others with hostility. High Chancellor Varric spoke first. He was a crystalline being, his body geometric and glowing with inner light. His voice resonated like music. Anakim of humanity. You stand before the council bearing a relic that has rejected thousands. Explain how you obtained it. I didn't obtain it. It chose me. Chose you, a Takish counselor said with skepticism. A human. A species barely capable of faster-than-light travel. What makes you worthy of such power? Hana felt anger rise in her chest. The armor sensed it and sent calming signals through her nervous system. I don't know if I'm worthy. I just know that when people needed help, I helped them. That's all. A Voron representative clicked his mandibles. You destroyed a Coalition research station and a Krell flagship. Hundreds died. The Krell attacked first. I defended people. If I hadn't, the Krell would have stolen the armor and used it to conquer half the galaxy. You know, that's true. Vorex raised a crystalline hand for silence. The Council acknowledges your actions saved many lives. However, the armor presents a problem. It is too powerful for any individual to possess without oversight. We require that you submit to neural examination so we can understand the bonding process. No, Hana said flatly. The chamber erupted with noise. Counselors shouted, argued, demanded. Vorex waited for silence. You refuse the Council's authority? I refuse to let you treat me like a lab experiment. The armor is part of me now. You're not cutting into my brain to satisfy your curiosity. Then, we cannot allow you to leave this world, Vorex said. You are too dangerous. Before Hana could respond, alarms began wailing throughout the building. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing space above a human colony world called New Zhongzhou. Krell warships. Dozens of them. They're attacking our colonies. Someone's voice came through on emergency channels. 3 worlds under assault. They want revenge for their flagship. The council chamber descended into chaos. Representatives screamed at each other, blame flying in every direction. Some demanded humanity be punished for provoking the Krell. Others called for immediate military response. Hana watched the displays. New Jeongju, New Bizen, New Incheon. 3 colonies, millions of humans, under attack by an empire that wanted to make an example of them. The Council will deploy forces, Vorik said. But it will take time. Days, perhaps weeks, to organize a proper response. My people don't have weeks, Hana said. Then they should have thought of that before one of them bonded with stolen property. Something broke in Hana, not her composure, her patience. She was tired of being treated like humanity didn't matter. Tired of aliens acting like humans were children who needed protection and punishment in equal measure. The armor wasn't stolen, she said, her voice carrying across the chamber. It was abandoned. For 800 years it sat in your research station, and you learned nothing from it, because you were all too arrogant to understand what it wanted. It doesn't want conquerors. It doesn't want glory seekers. It wants someone who gives a damn about protecting people. She activated the armor fully. It flowed across her body in waves of blue and silver, weapon systems coming online, shield generators humming to life. Council guards raised their weapons, but Vorik gestured them back. You think humanity is weak? Hana continued. Fine. We've been hearing that since we joined the coalition. But here's what you don't understand about humans. We're at our best when everyone else counts us out. You want to see if we deserve respect? Give us a chance to prove it. What are you proposing? Vorik asked. A test. My people will defend those 3 colonies with whatever volunteers they can gather. No coalition support. If we fail, I'll submit to whatever judgment you want. But if we succeed, humanity gets elevated to Tier 2 status with full voting rights in the Council. The chamber exploded with arguments. The idea was insane. Humans couldn't possibly defend 3 worlds against the Krell military. It was suicide. But Ambassador Tavik, an old Voron who had always been kind to humans, stood up. The proposal has merit. If humanity fails, we lose nothing. If they succeed, we gain allies who have proven their worth in blood. The Krell want war? Let them have it. The vote took an hour. It passed by a narrow margin, mostly because many council members thought humanity would fail and the human problem would solve itself. Hana didn't care about their reasoning. She opened a communication channel to every human ship, station, and colony in coalition space. This is Hana Kim. You've probably heard about me by now. About the armor. About what happened at the research station. She paused. The Krell are attacking our colonies. 3 worlds. Millions of our people. The coalition won't help us because they think we're too weak to matter. She let that sink in. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to prove them wrong. I need volunteers. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, anyone who can fight. We're going to those colonies, and we're going to defend our people. Not because the council asked us to, because they're ours to protect. The responses came immediately. Hundreds of messages. Jiho volunteering his shuttle and pilot skills. Soman offering the Gwangju's pride and every ship in the human defense fleet. A young soldier named Minho saying he'd been waiting his whole life for humans to stop accepting scraps and start demanding respect. Thousands volunteered within hours. Former military, current civilian, young and old. Humans who were tired of being dismissed. As the fleet gathered, Hana stood on the bridge of the Gwangju's pride and looked at her reflection in the viewport. The armor pulsed gently against her skin. Can we win? She asked it. Unknown, the armor replied. But we will fight regardless. That is what we do. Hana smiled. Yeah, that's what we do. The Krell expected an easy victory. They brought overwhelming force to 3 human colonies. Massive warships, ground troops, combat mechs. They planned to crush humanity's spirit, make an example that would echo across the galaxy. They didn't expect humans to fight back with everything they had. New Jiangju was the first target. The colony was built in the mountains of a cold world, home to 3 million people. When the Krell fleet arrived, they found a human defense force waiting. Not professional soldiers, farmers with hunting rifles. Miners with industrial equipment turned into weapons. Teachers protecting their students. And Hanakim and her predecessor, armor. She hit the Krell flagship before they finished landing their troops. The armor made her fast enough to cross space in short bursts, strong enough to tear through hull plating with her bare hands. She breached the ship and fought her way to the command deck, leaving destroyed combat drones and shocked soldiers in her wake. The Krell commander surrendered his ship within an hour, but the battle was just beginning. On the ground, Minho led a group of volunteers defending the capital city. He was 20 years old, barely old enough to enlist, but he fought like he had nothing to lose. When a Krell combat mech broke through their lines, Minho grabbed demolition charges and ran straight at it. For humanity, he shouted and detonated the charges at the mech's feet. The mech fell. Minho survived, barely. But the line held Dot in orbit. Captain Soman commanded the human fleet against ships 3 times their size. The Krell had better weapons, stronger shields, more experience. But Soman knew something they didn't. Humans were creative when desperate. She ordered her ships to fly in close. Too close for the Krell to use their heavy weapons without hitting each other. The human ships were smaller, more agile. They darted between the Krell warships like insects, landing critical hits before escaping. One by one, the Krell ships fell or retreated. New Bison was different. The colony was underwater, built in the oceans of a planet covered in endless seas. The Krell sent submarines and aquatic troops, expecting the water to slow down any defense. They forgot that humans had lived in water for thousands of years on Earth. The colonists flooded sections of their city deliberately, creating mazes where their knowledge of the terrain made the difference. Hana arrived in her armor, which adapted instantly to underwater combat. She moved through the water like a torpedo, faster than anything the Krell had. But she wasn't alone. Civilian divers, salvage workers, anyone who knew the ocean fought alongside her. They used the environment, the pressure, the darkness. They turned the Krell's strength against them. After 6 hours, the Krell forces retreated from New Busan. New Inshan was the hardest fight. It was humanity's newest colony, barely established, with only 200,000 people. The Krell sent their best troops, determined to take at least one world as a prize. Hana arrived to find the colony surrounded. The human volunteers were outnumbered 10 to 1. They had built barricades from prefab housing, turned construction equipment into improvised tanks, armed themselves with whatever they could find. She landed in the middle of the defensive line, and the armor systems connected to every human comm channel. "I can't be everywhere at once," Hana said, "but I can give you what you need to fight." The armor did something it had never done before. It reached out through Hana's neural link to every human in the battle, sharing tactical data, combat predictions, optimal firing solutions. It couldn't make them stronger or faster, but it could make them smarter. The volunteers fought with precision they shouldn't have had. They anticipated enemy movements, coordinated without needing orders, found weak points in Krell armor that only the predecessor technology could calculate. And in the center of it all, Hana fought like a legend. The armor was finally showing its full capabilities. She moved faster than thought, hit harder than thunder. Energy weapons, kinetic blades, shield generators, all flowing together in perfect harmony. But the Krell kept coming. "We're running out of ammunition," someone reported from orbit. "The fleet is damaged. We can't hold much longer." Hana looked around at the human defenders. They were exhausted, wounded, terrified. But not one of them was running. A teenage girl reloading a rifle with shaking hands. An old man holding a defensive position despite a broken arm. A mother fighting with a plasma cutter to protect her children. This was what the armor had chosen. Not the strongest or the fastest or most advanced. Humans. People who refused to quit even when quitting made sense. The armor can extend its power temporarily, the AI said in Hana's mind. Share it with others for a short time. It will weaken us significantly, but do it, Hana said. The armor pulsed with brilliant light. Energy flowed out from Hana in waves, touching every human in the battle. For just a few minutes, they felt what she felt. Enhanced strength, faster reflexes, shields that absorb damage. The tide turned, miners hit with the force of combat mechs. Pilots dodged fire they shouldn't have been able to see coming. Soldiers held lines that should have broken. The Krell forces, already exhausted from fighting 3 colonies simultaneously, broke first. They retreated to their ships and fled, abandoning the attack completely. Humanity had won. The defense of the 3 colonies became legend immediately. News spread across the coalition faster than light speed. Humans, the weakest species, had defeated the Krell military using nothing but determination and improvised tactics. The council was forced to acknowledge what had happened. High Chancellor Vorex called Hana back to the homeworld. This time, the council chamber was different. Representatives stood as she entered. Not all of them, some still held on to their prejudices, but enough. Hana Kim, Vorex said, his crystalline voice carrying respect that hadn't been there before. The council has witnessed humanity's defense of their worlds. We were wrong to dismiss your species. The courage shown by your people, both in the armor and out of it, has proven your worth. We didn't fight to prove anything to you, Hana said. We fought because they're our people. Because someone had to. And that, Vorex replied, is precisely why the armor chose you. The predecessors created it not as a weapon of conquest, but as a shield for the defenseless. You embodied that principle. The vote was unanimous this time. Humanity was elevated to Tier 2 status with full council representation. Trade restrictions were lifted. Technology sharing agreements were signed. The human species, dismissed for centuries, was finally recognized as equals. But Hana turned down the council seat they offered her. I'm not a politician, she told them. I'm an engineer who got lucky. Give that seat to someone who actually knows how to deal with people like you. Ambassador Tavik took the position instead. The first human to hold council office. Hana returned to New Jeongju. The colony was rebuilding, and she helped. The armor retracted to its dormant state while she worked on reconstruction, fixing power grids and water systems just like she used to. People recognized her now. They called her a hero. Children wanted to touch the armor, to hear stories about the battles. She tried to stay humble about it all. Jiho visited her while she was repairing a damaged solar array. He sat on the scaffolding beside her, looking at the mountains in the distance. They're calling you the Guardian of Humanity, he said. That's a stupid title. Maybe, but it fits. You know what Mom said when I called her? She said she always knew you'd do something important. You were always the one who couldn't stand by and watch people suffer. Hana tightened the bolt with more force than necessary. I'm not special, Jiho. I just did what needed doing. That's what makes you special. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Hana's come buzzed. Dr. Myray Park, now leading a research team studying predecessor technology. Hana, we found something. Another artifact. It's not responding to anyone, but given your connection to the armor, we thought you should see it. Hana sighed. Can it wait? I'm fixing a solar array. It's been waiting for 3,000 years. I think it can wait a few more hours. After the call ended, Jiho looked at his sister. You going to check it out? Eventually, after I finished this repair, Hana looked at the colonies spreading out below them, at the people rebuilding their homes and lives. The armor said it waited centuries for someone who would fight because fighting was necessary, not because they wanted glory. And I think maybe there's more to protecting people than just fighting. Maybe it's also about fixing things, building things, making sure people have something worth defending. The armor, dormant but always listening, pulsed gently in agreement. That night, Hana stood at the memorial for those who had died in the Krull attacks. Hundreds of names carved in stone. Not just soldiers, civilians, volunteers, ordinary people who had stood up when it mattered. They think you're special because of me, the armor said. But I'm special because of them. Because of humans. Why? Hana asked. What is it about us? You're not the strongest species, not the smartest, not the most advanced. But when you decide something needs doing, you do it. When you say, let's end this, you mean it. That determination, that refusal to accept defeat, that's what I was made to protect. Hana smiled. So you're saying we're too stubborn to quit? I'm saying that stubbornness, when applied to protecting others, is the highest form of courage. Across human space, the news of their elevation spread.